Sleepless nights. That quiet ache in your chest as you wonder why, after everything you've tried, every plan, every late-night reflection, real transformation still slips through your fingers. How long has it been since you truly felt at home in your own skin? When was the last time you woke up excited just to be you, instead of hiding behind layers of effort, achievement, and the need for approval? These questions don't just belong to you. In today's world, millions find themselves lost in a haze of expectations, the relentless pursuit of success, the suffocating belief that you're only as worthy as your latest accomplishment or the number of likes on your best photo. You worry you're falling behind, that you'll never quite measure up, that the real you is somehow insufficient or invisible. That quiet suffering, that feeling of running but never arriving, is a collective story. It's born from years of chasing what others call the good life, only to end each day with the same lingering emptiness. But what if this ache inside isn't a flaw to be hidden? What if it's the doorway to the most honest, compassionate chapter of your journey? The one where you finally stop running, slow down, and begin the gentle practice of listening to the tired parts of yourself, to the voice that has always asked, "Who am I when I stop pretending? When will I allow myself simply to be?" Tonight, those questions become our compass, and your willingness to sit with them, not escape them, is the first step toward the inner alignment and healing you've been searching for all along. Since childhood, most of us have learned, quietly and without even knowing it, to hide away the parts of ourselves that feel too much or not enough. Deep beneath the surface, there lives a collection of memories too painful to recall, old humiliations we never spoke of, and raw emotions, anger, grief, envy, longing, that someone once told us were unacceptable or too messy. In the language of Carl Jung, this accumulation becomes our shadow. But this shadow isn't a faraway stranger. It breathes just beneath your skin, shaping how you love, compete, avoid, or strive for affection. Maybe you're sleepless at night, replaying tiny rejections from years ago and wondering why they still sting. Maybe you drive yourself to overachieve, hoping that if you're finally impressive enough, the gnawing self-doubt will disappear. Maybe you hunger for acceptance, always scanning the world for signs that you truly belong. These are not flaws, nor are they weaknesses. They are pain signals, messages from within, revealing where a lost part of you is begging to be seen, heard, and healed. Society has long taught us to airbrush our imperfections, to only post the brightest parts, to retreat from anything that might betray our struggles. We are rewarded for being pleasant, resilient, together, while we quietly silence the messy truth underneath. But the energy of what we suppress never vanishes. It hardens, pressurizes, and subtly drains us, from chronic tiredness, creative block, to an inability to form real, safe connections with others. The paradox, Jung reminds us, is that the shadow is not your enemy. It's a missing fragment of your soul, holding the keys to authentic purpose, creative fire, and lasting freedom. Only by turning toward our pain, acknowledging our hidden wounds and the emotions we've disowned, can we call back lost energy and rediscover self-compassion. Befriending the shadow doesn't mean wallowing in sorrow. It means standing beside yourself in moments that once felt unspeakable, seeing them not as evidence of failure, but as invitations to wholeness. Befriending the shadow doesn't mean wallowing in sorrow. It means standing beside yourself in moments that once felt unspeakable, seeing them not as evidence of failure, but as invitations to wholeness. You don't need to conquer your darkness. Surrender to it, listen to what it is asking. When you practice seeing and embracing all of yourself, light and shadow combined, you begin to feel a courage and clarity that cannot be taken away. The more you accept your shadow, the more integrated you become. You no longer need to perform for acceptance or exhaust yourself seeking approval. Instead, you move through life with a quiet confidence born from knowing that every part of you, even hidden and hurting, is worthy of a place at your table. That is where your truest power begins. Since childhood, we've learned to turn away from what hurts: shame, disappointment, anger, even our deepest desires for love and acceptance. Over the years, those early lessons shaped how we navigated the world. We learned to strive, to overachieve, to plaster on positivity, and keep anything raw tucked far below the surface. But what happens when those old strategies no longer protect us, but instead begin to hold us back? Fast forward to adulthood, and there you are, standing in front of the mirror, repeating your daily affirmations. I am worthy, I am whole, I will succeed. You read self-help books, chase new habits, and project confidence outwardly. Yet underneath, a different story plays out. Beneath your practiced smile might linger a restless need for validation. Behind your ambition, the hush of self-doubt or the fear of being unseen. Have you noticed how, no matter how passionately you declare your intentions, certain patterns, anxiety, the hunger for approval, relationships that repeat the same aches, somehow return? That's not failure, nor is it proof that you're weak. It's the echo of your shadow, the pain and emotions locked away long ago, now quietly shaping your beliefs and energy. The world doesn't respond to the words you say. It tunes into the energy you embody, to the subtle undercurrents of your subconscious self. Real transformation comes not from forcing a cheerful facade, but from pausing. Instead of drowning discomfort in busyness or manufactured optimism, you give yourself space to feel your true fears, to listen for the stories you've handed power to again and again. In these still moments, you start to reclaim all the pieces of energy given away over the years of hiding. You untangle what's kept you stuck, and for the first time, healing becomes less about effort and more about honest presence. The truth is, every part of you, past and present, light and shadow, belongs to your story. The more compassion you offer your inner world, the more you transform old pain into clarity and confident living. It's not about shouting your worth louder, but about gently listening deeper than the noise. Maybe you're someone who seems like everything is going fine on the outside. You're working, achieving, socializing, maybe even hitting goals people admire. And still, in those quiet moments, when there's nothing left to chase, a strange emptiness rises. It could be fatigue you can't explain, a sense of dullness in your day-to-day, or moments where you look in the mirror and don't fully recognize the person staring back. You tell yourself you should be grateful, you are aware of your blessings, but something deeper remains untouched, and you feel it in silence. There are days you push yourself harder, thinking just one more achievement might finally quiet that persistent inner critic. You search for validation in your work, comparison in your friendships, or comfort in distractions, hoping that with enough effort, this lingering unease will disappear. But it doesn't. This discomfort, the sadness you didn't let yourself feel, the anger you silenced, the anxiety you hid behind a smile, it doesn't vanish. It waits. It shapes your thoughts, your relationships, and your sense of self-worth. It cloaks itself in overthinking, perfectionism, and burnout. and it gently pulls you further away from your authentic self. We live in a world obsessed with showing the light, with celebrating polished, confident, together versions of ourselves. But we were never taught what to do with the rest, what Jung called the shadow, the hidden, disowned parts of us that have been exiled behind closed emotional doors. Here's the truth: what we suppress doesn't go away. It builds pressure, it leaks energy, it dims creativity and disconnects us from our purpose. Have you ever noticed that your reality doesn't quite match your words? You wake up and tell yourself, "I am worthy, I am whole, I will succeed." But still, you feel like something's missing. You keep attracting the same relationship, the same inner conflict, the same sense of never quite getting there, no matter how much effort you put in. That's because the universe doesn't respond to what you say, it responds to your energy, to your quietest beliefs, your subconscious signals. The world around you tunes into your frequency, not your surface. If under your confidence lives a quiet need to be loved, to be chosen, to not be abandoned again, that is what you're unconsciously projecting. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are, especially in the moments when no one is watching. Real transformation doesn't happen when you plaster over pain with productivity or pretend to be okay. It begins the moment you slow down, the moment you stop running and start listening to what's really there. The fear you've been avoiding, the grief still lingering, the unmet longing for self-acceptance. When you finally hold space for these parts without judgment, they soften, and as they soften, they speak. You start to hear the deeper stories driving your decisions, the inherited beliefs that don't align with who you're becoming. Bit by bit, you start calling your energy back from all the places you gave it away just to feel safe, seen, or successful. You stop performing, stop proving, and in that space, something new opens up, something steady, something true. Healing and manifestation aren't found by shouting louder into the void. They begin with quiet, honest presence, with the courage to meet yourself, not just the bright, lovable parts, but the messy, wounded, aching ones too. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's the part of you that holds the raw material of your power, your intuition, your creativity, and your truth. And once you acknowledge it, not as something to overcome, but as something to integrate, you stop living in fragments. You stop chasing wholeness and start embodying it. This is not about becoming a new person. It's about remembering who you were before you were taught to split yourself into acceptable pieces. From that remembrance, a new kind of confidence is born, one that no longer depends on outside validation, one that is rooted from within, quiet, unshakable, free. Every person who has ever turned inward, truly inward, will, at some point in their journey, find themselves in the still, vast space we call the void. It arrives not with chaos, but with a strange, deafening quiet. You've done the work. You've surrendered the need to control. You've faced your shadows, shed old roles, and chosen awareness over avoidance. And yet, nothing. No sign, no shift, no reward. You wake up one morning and realize the goals you once clung to no longer excite you. The noise that used to distract you feels hollow. The clarity you hoped would come is nowhere in sight. You are neither who you used to be, nor quite who you are becoming. This is the space in between, the energetic winter that comes after the harvesting of old identities, but before the new self blooms. And it's terrifying, Because the world doesn't teach us how to hold stillness. It teaches us to fix, to chase, to produce. So when silence stretches longer than expected, doubt creeps in, your mind begins to panic. Did I take the wrong paths? Is this transformation even working? Why isn't anything happening? But here's what most don't understand. The void is not a failure. It's not a punishment. It's preparation. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He called it the creative void, a sacred, fertile emptiness where the soul quietly begins its reconstruction. While your conscious mind may beg for proof, your unconscious is rewriting everything. Beneath your awareness, your nervous system is slowly recalibrating. Old belief structures are disassembling. The architecture of your identity, the one built on survival and self-protection, is being softened, dissolved, and made new. You don't see it because you're not meant to measure this phase from the surface. This is inward soil work. Imagine the seed underground. From the outside, stillness. But within, it's splitting, breaking, opening. A quiet alchemy is underway, and like all sacred processes, it cannot be rushed. In the void, nothing visible is happening, yet everything essential is. And so, the invitation is this. Resist the impulse to fill the silence with noise. Resist the urge to make something happen just to soothe your discomfort. Instead, stay. Hold your ground. Breathe with discomfort instead of running from it. Honor uncertainty as a sign that a deeper truth is being seeded. This is the space where your soul says, "Let me recreate you." To sit in the void without fixing yourself is one of the most courageous acts of trust you will ever do. It's choosing to believe in the unseen. It's learning to walk by energy, not evidence. And over time, subtly, slowly, you will feel it. A softening, a return, a shift so gentle that it doesn't announce itself, but moves through you like breath. Clarity will arise not as an epiphany, but as a whisper, and purpose won't come flying through the sky, it will surface in your stillness. When you begin to emerge from the void, and you'll realize that the emptiness you once feared was actually a womb. Not the end of who you were, but the sacred beginning of who you were always meant to become. So if you are in the void now, know this. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt from the inside out. The space between now and not yet is not wasted time. It's holy time. And in this silence, your power is not in doing. It's in allowing. Let the void teach you that stillness is not absence, it's presence. And this moment of trusting nothing, is the first step toward becoming everything. There's a quiet truth that becomes more undeniable the further you walk on this path. No one is ever truly liberated by becoming perfect. Real growth, lasting, grounded, embodied growth, doesn't come from polishing yourself into a flawless ideal. It comes from becoming whole. Wholeness doesn't mean arriving at some final, upgraded version of yourself. It means gathering all the scattered parts, learning to stand with them, and saying, "Even this belongs." Most of us have spent years curating only the acceptable versions of ourselves, shining light on what's praiseworthy, hiding what feels broken, ashamed, or too messy to love. We've been conditioned to believe that only perfection deserves belonging, that only strength earns respect. So we armor ourselves, we perform, we push, we try to prove. But in that constant polishing, we risk splitting. We feel a subtle gap between who we show the world and who we are when we're alone. We carry a quiet exhaustion from pretending, managing, and containing the parts of us that never stopped longing to be true. Carl Jung taught that we cannot ever become whole while rejecting our shadow, the parts that carry our pain, but also our wildness, our untamed creativity, our truth. Integration begins the day we stop trying to destroy the flawed parts of us and start learning how to sit beside them. It's not about developing a perfect persona. It's about becoming someone who welcomes the contradiction of being human, the light and the dark, the strength and softness, the clarity and chaos. Integration means that your anxiety has a home. Your grief isn't wrong. That part of you who still wants to be chosen, she belongs too. When all of you are included, something magical happens. You stop needing to beg for love or prove your worth through endless overgiving. You stop grasping and you start magnetizing. Because when you live from wholeness rather than performance, your energy shifts. You no longer chase what you think will make you worthy. You move through life with quiet power, knowing that you already are. And the world feels that. It meets you differently. You begin to attract relationships, experiences, even abundance, not because you finally earned them after massive effort, but because you've become someone who is open enough to receive. In this space, you drop the war with yourself. You're not editing who you are for acceptance. You're not reaching outside for your identity. You become your own safe place. And gradually, you discover everything you thought you had to chase was always flowing toward the version of you who could finally stop splitting in half. The version of you that no longer strives to be perfect, but shows up fully human, unapologetically whole. That right there is your return to yourself. Why does this journey touch so many of us so deeply? Because across this generation, we are quietly exhausted. We feel isolated within ourselves, even as we keep up appearances and meet the world's expectations. This is the exhaustion of survival mode, of wearing masks, adapting constantly, and rarely finding moments of authenticity. For years, we've been told to push harder, prove ourselves, and never settle. Yet these scripts, instead of empowering us, have become their own kind of prison, fueling anxiety, burnout, and a sense of never being enough. This message, this journey inward, invites you to break those chains. It permits you to strip away the layers of expectation, to slow down, to acknowledge and accept every part of yourself. Here, there is no judgment, only space for you to finally be whole. Most importantly, the heart of this journey is not about chasing or performing, but about remembering, returning to the person you have always been underneath the noise. This is the intersection of Jungian depth psychology and modern mindfulness, a philosophy and a practice that brings you home to yourself. By holding space for your entire self, your joy and your pain, your courage and your fear, you step out of comparison, out of the endless chase. You return fully to your own presence. You've come this far. You've faced your shadow, allowed the void, surrendered the chase, and remembered your inner compass. But now what? This is the space where ideas must become experienced, where insight meets embodiment. Integration is not just a realization, it is a lived practice. So let's explore 4 grounding principles, practical yet powerful tools that help bring your inner transformation into the way you live, love, and move through the world. Shadow work is not a trend. It's a lifelong relationship with the parts of you that were once pushed away. These parts don't need to be punished. They need to be seen. When grief, insecurity, shame, or fear arise, we often rush to suppress them. But in doing so, we silence the messenger. One of the most direct and powerful ways to meet your shadow is through self-expression. Practice suggestions. Journaling without filters, letting the unconscious speak freely on the page. Meditating with the tension in your body instead of bypassing it. Creating through art, music, movement as a form of dialogue with emotion. When you give these rejected parts of self a safe place to exist, they begin to soften. You stop being ruled by them, and you begin to listen. Many ask, why am I doing the work, but nothing is changing? The answer lies not in effort, but in alignment. When your thoughts, words, emotions, and actions are aligned, when the internal truth matches the external presentation, life responds, and often effortlessly. Practice suggestions. Take a daily alignment pause. Ask yourself, is my nervous system tense or at ease? Am I being honest about what I want right now? Observe moments when your actions feel forced. These are signs of energetic dissonance. Make a new habit. Act only from clarity or compassion, not from pressure, shoulds, or fear. Inner alignment is not a finish line. It is a relationship with yourself built on honesty, curiosity, and gentle correction. People often ask, how do I manifest what I want? But they still feel disconnected, unworthy, or doubtful inside. That's because true manifestation doesn't start with what you say, it starts with what you believe and embody. You don't manifest from your mouth, you manifest from your energy. Practice suggestions. Before you declare what you want, check your root emotion. Is it love or fear? Stop trying to become someone else and start embodying the truth of already being enough. Ask not, how do I get more, but what version of me naturally attracts what I desire? You are the signal. Change the signal and life adjusts, not because of magic, but because you stopped resisting your own reality. Modern society has taught us to neglect ritual, yet ritual is how the soul remembers. We need ceremony, not just for religion or celebration, but to mark transitions, grieve losses, honor ancestors, and remember who we are before the world told us who to be. Ceremony grounds the sacred into the everyday. Create personal rituals. Light a candle before journaling. Honor your emotions with symbolic gestures. Reconnect with lineage. Write letters to your inner child or to ancestors you've never met. Listen to the silence that speaks between generations. Gather with intention, not for performance but for presence. Whether it's a group of friends, a walk in nature, or a solo evening with music, make it sacred. These small ceremonies are reminders. I belong here, I am connected, I am already whole. These aren't just tools. They are doorways, quiet, unassuming entryways that open back onto lost landscapes inside you. Maybe at first they sound simple, a breath of mindfulness, a page in your journal, a single honest moment of noticing. but taken together, they form a pathway home. With every small, imperfect step, you remember what it feels like for wholeness to become something real, something lived, not a distant concept or empty promise. Integration doesn't arrive all at once, with a trumpet blast or a lightning strike. More often, it's a long, gentle mosaic, a collection of tiny choices, a pause before you react, a kindness offered to yourself on a hard morning, a willingness to let the old pain speak instead of silencing it again. It happens in those in-between moments, in the way you whisper to yourself that it's okay to be where you are, the way you plant a new intention amid the ruins of outgrown beliefs. Permit yourself to grow slowly. Offer yourself the grace you so easily give to others. You don't have to transform your life overnight. Start with a breath, then a page, then a single act of honesty with your own heart. Let that consistency, imperfect as it may be, become a quiet drumbeat. Every time you honor your own experience, instead of judging or denying it, you are gently reshaping not just the way you see yourself, but the way you inhabit the whole world. Remember, this isn't about polishing yourself until you shine or becoming better by some outside metric. It's about becoming real, about rooting deeply into your own presence, even when the surface shakes. And in that authenticity, in the raw, unguarded being of you, you'll discover that what you've chased for so long was much closer than you imagined. That peace isn't a final destination, but a companion you meet each time you let yourself arrive, fully and honestly, in this breath, in this body, in this moment. So trust the process. Cherish the small victories. Let yourself be surprised at how deep your roots can grow when you stop searching for the right soil, and remember the ground beneath you was always enough. What you long for, presence, quiet strength, a sense of home inside your own mind, does not come because you achieve more, finally fix yourself, or never stumble. It comes when you give yourself full permission to show up as you are, again and again. That's the beginning of real power and the foundation of peace that lasts. If you felt even a flicker of truth or recognition as you listened, if something deep inside you finally felt named, supported, or understood, don't just let this moment drift by. Hit subscribe and become part of a living tapestry we're weaving here, each of us contributing our own stories, struggles, and awakenings. Tap like if this journey stirred something real within you, and share in the comments. What hidden part of your own psyche is longing to be woven into this unfolding story? Your courage to share, your presence right here, helps every one of us feel more connected, more whole. Don't be just an observer, add your thread. Subscribe, like, and become part of this movement where every voice matters and every insight belongs. Let's keep growing, let's keep weaving together.